To start this off, I've known about Starbackr for quite some time. I've heard the name. I haven't registered, and I've been kind of lazy to get an LN auth or like my Albi set up, and I've done it in the last month. But I've registered and got onboarded and everything, and I like what the platform's trying to do. And I feel like right now, with everything going on in social, there's never been a better time for a platform like Starbackr. So I would love to hear, your inspiration and your team's inspiration for this, but also just, what you're hearing being like one of the groups of people who are trying to solve this problem of just allowing people to, use social in a freedom oriented way.
Yeah. All right. I'll start with inspiration. So we started this journey maybe late summer last year, and that was when there was a lot of news about the platforming going on. It was the Joe Rogan podcast thing that happened. There was some news about OnlyFans. Twitter had this problem for a long time. So basically, censorship, deplatforming, all those kinds of things happened so much last year. I mean, like they're still happening, but there's less like media about it. So that was the time when Joe and Arun are my two co-founders, got together and actually probably in the most Bitcoin foundy way you can have, because we we met in a Telegram chat called the Lightning Network, discussing all of those news, right, and all of the things that happened last year. Joe asked the question, and in a public Telegram chat, he was like, "How can it be that no one has solved this yet with a platform that builds on Lightning?" Right? Because if you look at all the things that happen with the deplatforming of creators, or like basically the bullying of digital content creators, it's always related to payment. That's mostly the issue, right? No one deplatforms a creator for just being a creator. They deplatform a creator because they see a risk for their monetization rails or for the payment network. And so Joe asked, why has no one solved this yet? We have the Lightning Network. It should be easy enough to build a platform like this, right? And that's that's where we got together and started building Starbackr. And initially, it was just a funny idea to build a platform like this. So we started out building an MVP without having any plans for actually making a company out of it. And then went to last year's adopting Bitcoin to show off the whole product. And that's when we saw and that's when we got all the feedback from the community, from creators, from people who would be interested in a product like this, and they were like, yes, this is exactly what we need. And that's why we decided to, in the end, found Starbacker and actually make a real product out of it. As I said, with all those problems being related mostly to monetization, which is on the one side payment rails, and on the other side monetization in general, and the ways we do monetize digital content at the current time. I feel like the Lightning Network is exactly what is needed to make to build a system that is less ill than the current one, and to actually I mean, that's what we have like as a motive, right? We want to empower content creators, and it's it's a lot more than just a stupid saying. It's actually empowering people to again be free with their content creation.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I remember, I think it was earlier this year, OnlyFans was like banning people from using Visa and MasterCard. And I am not here to be pro or against OnlyFans, but more so the Bitcoin ethos of let people do what they want with their money and don't try to get in the way of them. And what's fascinating this week, especially with Elon being in the forefront of the news with Twitter, he's even getting pushback on just trying to present content in a way that is just natural. Like people want to speak and share their voice online, and like let's not have it be suppressed. So it's like that's even a bigger thing that's coming to light. I know it's always kind of been an issue, but now it's like, hey, this is really happening. It's happening right in front of our eyes. They're not really hiding it anymore the way they've tried to.
Yeah, yeah. There's two big problems with a platform that tries to be free in what they allow for content on the platform, and is at the same time built on a legacy monetization path. Or yeah, one issue is the payment network itself, right? So if you rely, as you said, if you rely on monetization through Visa and Master, for example, you will always need to bow to what they say. Because if you lose that rail, you will probably lose like a big chunk of your revenue, or even like the biggest chunk of your revenue, and probably not be able to support your business any longer. So they have an immense power over what you can do and or what you will do or will not do, because you essentially, like as I said, you need to bow to whatever they say. The second thing that is discussed way less, but is very important as well, is ad monetization and brand safety, right? And that's true for most legacy platforms because most legacy platforms monetize through ads, right? And that's not even in the Bitcoin space that's happening. I know so many creators that are on YouTube, for example, having YouTube channels about Bitcoin, like filled with Bitcoin content, and even they feel that because as soon as YouTube tells you not to, or like disables monetizations on one of your videos for whatever reasons, right? You have a big problem because that's actually your income. That's the way you pay for your living. And the reason they do that, they might disable monetization on some, I don't know, some topic you talked about, or they might even deplatform you because of some political views or whatever. The reason they do that is not because they fear their monetization, they fear the payment network's exclusion, but they fear that their platform is less brand safe because of what you say. So yeah, those are the two paths that we currently see in the legacy in the legacy world. That is once creators being the platform because the platform fears the monetization rails going away, and the other one is the platform becoming less brand safe. And I'm definitely I think as long as a company builds on the legacy systems like Visa and Master or ad monetization, we will see those problems still be there. It doesn't matter if there's a new CEO or a new owner coming into the company that has a different mindset. As long as they still rely on those legacy world things, they will not be able to change that.
What's been the response thus far with what you guys are doing, and who's been the core user the quickest to adopt, at least at this phase of the business?
So the response has been pretty good, I think. As I said, when we started out with the whole project, we didn't imagine it to become such a serious thing that it became. So we were actually very surprised of the, as I said, of the response and the need for such a platform. And I think the core users so far have been Bitcoiners that split up in two groups. One is a group that actually want to post sophisticated content, educational content, and the other group is more the Bitcoiner that just sees the platform, wants to use it because they know it's a Bitcoin platform, it's a Bitcoin company, and just wants to experience how it currently works. So we have that very casual user that just comes to the platform, posts a vacation picture, for example, a little bit like the initial Instagram use cases where you saw a lot of like close-up pictures of flowers and stuff because people just wanted to try it out. And then we have some of the users that actually use the platform how we imagine it could evolve in the future as like a content hub for educational Bitcoin content or even like entertaining Bitcoin content and just use the monetization rails that we give them.
Well, as far as the Lightning integration, has does it help like break the ice of the Lightning learning curve? Like that's something I constantly think about is how Bitcoin obviously has little issues that businesses and individual users run into, but when it comes to the Lightning network, it can be pretty seamless for people. So whenever folks who are not familiar with Lightning, but they see the value in Starbackr, is Lightning pretty quick for them to pick up and understand, or is it a bit of a learning curve for people maybe who are not privy to what Lightning is as a technology?
So I definitely agree with Lightning being a little harder to pick up than like obviously the legacy system because everyone is used to, and also the standard Bitcoin transaction system or the on-chain transaction system, which is probably because people are again a little bit more used to that, at least if they have made experience with cryptocurrency or Bitcoin in the past. We thought about that right from the get-go. So we tried to develop Starbacker in a way that actually a no-coiner could use it as well. And we weren't 100% successful in that. I definitely want to be honest about that because when we started out with the MVP, we wanted it to be the Bitcoiner dream, right? The 100% non-custodial platform, which is which is incredibly hard if you want to have a platform that monetizes through a commission or like a share model, right? Because splitting payments with Lightning in a non-custodial way is very hard to do. So it was semi non-custodial, right? You would have to give us some API endpoint or a Lightning address or Strike account username, for example, if you had a Strike account or whatever. So we could fetch an invoice, and then if someone paid you, we would take the payment, withdraw or like deduct our share from it, and then fetch an invoice from your service that you provided us with to actually push the payment to you. I mean, like even the explanation is pretty complicated, and you could imagine that some of the users were not really able to do that. First of all, the hard thing without Bolt 12 being there, and with most people not having their own web server for LN URL withdrawal or whatever, most users were not able to use that feature. Or they would have to like download one of the third-party wallets that we supported, which were then again custodial wallets. So it was not really successful. Then we had a lot of people that did not understand what a Lightning address is, for example, and tried to put in a Gmail address because they just thought, oh, well, this looks like an email address. Let me just put my email address. So we definitely encountered a lot of things that we thought would be very natural and intuitive for the user to do. But if you spend a lot of time in the Bitcoin bubble, you really start to to lose the perspective a little bit. And I mean, I want to be completely honest with you. I think Lightning has a horrible UX when you try to do some of the more complicated stuff with it, right? Everyone can get a wallet of Satoshi and click pay and just scan a QR code and pay it, right? But as soon as you want to leverage one of them, leverage the more complex things that you could do with Lightning, it gets really difficult because we currently don't have the user interfaces, and we currently don't have the integrations that are built for people that have no idea, that have absolutely no clue. And I mean, like, we're getting there. I'm part of this space for like 2 years now, so I'm still a very early Bitcoiner, you could say, or a young Bitcoiner. And even in the time that I've been part of this space, the development from the user experience side has been tremendous, and we are definitely getting there, but we are still not there. So when we developed the market ready platform that is live currently, we thought about, okay, we would really need to abstract all the things that we think are complicated about the Lightning Network and how you can interact with the Lightning Network, and make it as easy as possible. That's why every Starbackr account now comes with a custodial Lightning account integrated, right? You could still go ahead and tip, subscribe, and whatever you want to do on the platform using your own Lightning wallet and just get a QR code and scan it and pay it. But you could also have a balance in your Starbackr account and then leverage functionalities like one-click payments. One of the other things that we did to make it a little bit more accessible for people is denominate everything in dollar instead of using sats. I mean, like, I definitely believe in sats as standard in our future world, but I also know that if someone who is not completely familiar comes to a social network and has a lot of doubt, maybe because there have been like a million social networks before Starbackr, and they come to the platform and they are not really certain about the network yet, and they see that everything is denominated in that weird thing called sats they have no idea about. And even I pay things with Bitcoin daily. Every time I pay something in sats, I have to think about how much euro is that now, right? So if someone new comes to the platform and sees a denominator they don't know about, it's a huge barrier for them. So that's why we decided to denominate everything in dollar. So I definitely, to come back to your initial question, I think there's a lot of stuff that needs to be abstracted away from the user on a user experience or a user interface level to make Lightning as accessible as the legacy payment world is today. But to be fair, Lightning is just a few years old, and we have quite some time to catch up compared to platforms like PayPal and Co.
That's really good perspective. I appreciate you sharing that. Nate, did you have something? I don't want to just jump in too fast.
It's interesting because we are seeing, especially I think this year, not only really, really cool, novel ways to interact with Lightning and enable this frictionless global micropayment world that we're trying to build, but also the sort of connection points between nodes and these services are also getting better. Alby, for example, is integrated with Starbackr, so that made it really easy for me to sort of connect my node to it and everything. But yeah, there's definitely a learning curve when you try to bring in people that aren't already sort of in this Bitcoin native world. So that's a real challenge that I think that we need to keep on our radar, because that is showing those kind of people that this is a better alternative to what they're used to. I think will be the challenge of the decade for sure.
Yeah, I think that's 100% true, especially for people on the buying side of things. At least that's what I see in Germany when I try to onboard someone, right? Because the person that uses the credit card or the PayPal account to buy stuff will have a very good UX. I mean, that's fair to say, right? PayPal is just frictionless. Credit cards are pretty frictionless, and they won't have the cost associated. Then you always have to go back to the merchant who pays the 3% of credit card fee or whatever they have to pay, and get them, right. And if we can get the merchants, then we can get the users, because the merchant is incentivized to switch. The user might not be incentivized to switch. They might understand why it's important, right? But as long as they don't understand the ideological perspective, it will get quite hard to get them switched. And I think the same holds true for the whole digital domain as well. And talking about Alvi, I 100% agree with you. I cannot wait for the world where I can just assume a WebLN provider inside the user's browser, because it would make development of features, or like the things that we have on Starback today that cost us a lot of time and effort to get in a close to frictionless way. If we would have WebLN as like something that got adopted by everyone, we could build so much amazing stuff with Lightning without actually having to worry about the user being stuck with like technical stuff or like complicated user interfaces.
I would love for Bitcoiners to start infiltrating other sorts of conferences, like these YouTube content conferences and stuff, and sort of start spreading the word on that a little bit, because the way content creation works now and revenue for folks that are making like YouTube videos and stuff is you have to grind your butt off and you don't make anything for a long time, right? But like with a lightning empowered thing, at least you're probably going to get something when you're starting. You don't have to wait for this permission with this really slow build up, and then a lot of people give up. I think that's. I think we need to target a lot of those sort of folks too. So there's definitely a lot of avenues, and I think Bitcoiners that have other hobbies outside of Bitcoin, which I know that's probably rare, should probably go try to talk to people in their other spheres and see what people think about trying stuff like this.
Yeah, I agree. I think the bubble is hurting us a little in that perspective, and I realize that when people go to El Salvador, I mean, like I did that as well, right? I was in El Salvador for 3 days, so I didn't have any time to like, and I came from Europe, right? I came from Germany, so I basically traveled 5 days to be there for 3 days in total. So people came there for the Adopting Bitcoin conference, and a lot of people did not go out to like the countryside or other places. They just came for the Adopting Bitcoin conference and went away again. And I know that everyone is busy, but obviously that will not help adoption. Like someone actually going through the villages and talking to people and understand the problems and perspectives, and actually build something. And that's what something we had to learn with Starbucks as well, right? You don't build something you imagine would help people. You build something that you know will help people, because before you build something, you go to the people and ask them what they need. And that's something that I think the whole bubble needs to learn a little bit, especially with like YouTube. And I have a very strong stance, and my background is advertisement, and I still have a very strong stance against like ad monetization models, especially because I think they just introduce a lot of very bad game theory for the whole content creator economy that will, yeah, make the whole system collapse at some point. And Lightning is one of the only ways, or Bitcoin in general, and the Lightning Network, because of its power for like micropayments, is one of the only ways that we actually gonna like get out of that collapsing creator economy and build something with a better fundament, with a better foundation for the future.
You raise a really good point there, and I try, like Nate was bringing up, like people with like different interests outside of Bitcoin. Like as someone who's worked in digital advertising, content creation, marketing for as long as I have, like people are really thinking and approaching content on the internet a lot like real estate. Like typically in real estate right now, it's good to like buy a cheap asset that's not taken care of, that lacks quality infrastructure. You fix it up, you add value, and you sell it at a higher net operating income. That's how a lion's share of money is made. And the same thing is coming to the web, where you buy a website, maybe you improve it, and then you go sell it. There's this big culture of that happening in these young entrepreneurs who want to have multiple streams of income and they want to build a personal brand. And I see how these monetization models, based on what you're saying, it's absolutely true. Like, personal brands are not really your personal brand if you are at the whim of these large institutions who can just in one swath take you down or everyone else on the platform. There needs to be ways where people can build and manage their own brand and identity. And it's a big topic, but it's really interesting seeing it unfold in real time. And you're right, the incentives are broken. And one thing that's happening in the digital advertising world, especially, it's happened in Europe a few years ago. It's coming to America now, but they're banning the advertising pixel and a lot of the data that it contains, which marketers have leaned on tremendously over the last 10 years. You just place a retargeting pixel. If someone engages with your site, you can pay and retarget them and get really low cost leads because you know who is in market and who is not. But now that that's kind of being sunset in 2023, it becomes more important than ever for people to earn organic visibility and to build a brand through social and different channels. So we really need the capability for people to have control and autonomy over their data and how they're presented online, because the playing field's shifting quite a bit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I know what you're talking about. Before I got into the Bitcoin space, like GDPR has bringing me headache for like a couple of years, and because I did work in digital advertisement and selling display ads for like all of my life, pretty much before I became like a Bitcoiner. And I'm absolutely with you on people taking back the storyline of their own identity, or like the digital identity or the digital brand. I think that's why we very very quickly integrated with slash text, for example, as well, with yeah, like it's much more than just like digital identity management, but the product by synonym, slash text will definitely enable a lot of these use cases. And I think there's just so much overlap in what we want to build with Starbucks and what they want to build with slash text and the whole like profile idea. And so right now the integration is very very simple, and just like the most simplest MVP you can imagine. You have like a slash text profile, you put in your username, and you sign up using a slash text on Starbacker, and we will automatically populated username for you, right? That's all it does right now. not not too fancy, but the possibilities of what that could be at some point, where because slash text is completely built on those like decentralized drives, or at least at some point they will be decentralized drives, that you can like give someone permission to read and then take that permission away again and move it somewhere else, is really gonna unlock people actually, as you said, building a brand that is, or like a brand identity, and a digital identity that's actually their own, that they can put to a platform and publish on a platform. But if the platform decides to shut them down, they can just take the whole profile and put it up somewhere else, or they can even have it at multiple platforms at the same time and manage everything. And once they decide they don't want to be part of that platform anymore, they can just like give or like take away the permission to read that drive. And again, like they have the full control over the identity and the data and the content. And yeah, I agree. It's definitely gonna be very very important once everything shuts down a little more. And the thing with the tracking pixels and the cookies you just mentioned actually makes the whole thing worse, right? I know that the EU, when they decided on that law, I guess at least they probably wanted to do something good and actually preserve people's privacy. But what they did is they closed down those gates for the open web, and the social media websites like Facebook and YouTube still have all that tracking power because they don't need to rely on an open standard like a cookie, because they have the user accounts. And Google even has like the Google Chrome browser, which enables just immense like tracking capabilities. Because of that, because of these laws that now permit like open web tracking, it became even more importantly that we find a way to like tackle all of this, and to build like an open permissionless network that is an alternative to, hey, you need to create a Google account to use this platform so we can still monetize our website. because that's not a real alternative, right? That's not an open standard that we want to embrace.
Yeah, you raise a really incredible point there. Like, while they do take away this data for us as marketers and the capability to target people, and the consumer says, hey, I see less ads targeting me, I feel more comfortable on the web. Lo and behold, Mr. Consumer, they still have all of that data and much more that they've never even disclosed to you or the marketers, and they're doing what they will with it. So, yeah, I agree with you. It's, man, yeah, this is something I'm really passionate about, and I'm really glad you guys are doing what you're doing, and there's becoming more interest in DIDs. And I haven't really studied up on slash tags too much, but it's awesome to see it functioning on Starbackr. And as far as like, that's John Carvalho's project. That's, isn't that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. How has the response to that been? I know it's probably a lot of hardcore Bitcoiners right now using it, but what's your view on slash tags? And could you maybe like explain that just a little bit for people in any more detail, and then just what role you believe that will play, like going into the future across different products as well?
We implemented slash tag, so login with or sign up and login with slash tags at the same time. We implemented login and sign up with Lightning with ln URL off. And so, as I said, the current use case is quite similar. You just get a QR code, you scan it with your BitKit wallet, because BitKit currently is the only wallet that supports the slash tags protocol, and it does some like it derives a public key from your Bitcoin wallet, just like Alan URL would do as well, and then uses that to authenticate with the platform, right? So then you can sign in using your Bitcoin wallet. Now, the interesting thing about slash tags is that it's not a unidirectional way of communicating like Alan URL Office. You just authenticate and that's it. Slash tags unlocks like all of these other use cases that could be implemented at some other point, like you having your own drive with your personality that's linked to your keys, and everything in there is encrypted using keys. And the cool thing about that is, if I want you, for example, to be able to access my drive or like a file that I have, or I don't know, content that I have, I will put a copy of that content in your drive and encrypt it using your private key. So now only you can read it because only you will be able to decrypt it. And I can even give you, or I can give you access to my drive, and you read it in my drive, and I can take that access away again. So there's like to get to your like question about how this will be useful in the future, or like how this can be used in the future, definitely depends on the adoption that this type of technology will see, right? And I think that's true with a lot of things that currently happen in the Bitcoin and Lightning space. There's a tremendous amount of very, very good ideas, but we need to make sure that people actually use those things so it becomes relevant for other people to integrate it. And I think that's why it's very important that we find other websites like Starbacker or like other apps, other wallets that will integrate slash tags. I know that Albi has been playing around with it a little bit as well, so I hope at some point we will see like slash tags live in the Albi wallet as well. But it's really important that this whole space like comes together and finds products that are very interesting to everyone. And even though there might not be like a big marketing or monetary incentive, everyone needs to find technology that can be useful in the future and build use cases around it. And talking about the Albi team, they have doing a tremendous job at that with all the different like proof of concepts they have been building, right? For every little gimmicky thing that there is in the Lightning world, Albi will have a proof of concept and they will show you how it can be used, and then it will like leave that project alone, right? That's all they do. Like they build fun things just to show other people how this technology could be used in the future. And I think that's very important, that we actually get to a point where people see the use cases that could develop in the future, so that they have some, it might be even intrinsic motivation to keep using that thing. And at least I have been doing that with all the people that I know, because I know that the BitKit wallet that supports the slash tags is currently in a very early beta stage, and it might be a little tough to use at some points, but I still like every person I know, I'm like, download BitKit, install it, and then like use it on Starbacker and see how it works. And I know it will be quite finicky from time to time, but I bet with you in like half a year of time, it will be the best wallet that you have on your phone. So that just like people keep using it, people see the use cases, and people start to think about what they could build with that in the future as well.
Well, Nicholas, what do you see happening over the next, probably going to be a decade plus long game, but with just everything going on in the social sphere and just individuals manning their personal brand or just simply the way they want to communicate with friends and family or building their business and just managing their digital assets, meaning like social assets, website, their files, and all of this. Like, where do you see this going? Like, maybe tell me a little bit on how you're just futuristically visualizing all of this unfolding over the next decade.
There is definitely two different paths I see developing, and one is very, very dark, and one is like very, very bright. Because as I said, I actually don't have a lot of confidence for the system that we have been building over the last decade. Looking at the legacy world, obviously, I'm not talking about Bitcoin. The legacy social and web, like what some people call the web 2.0, right? The foundation it is built on is very, very tainted and fragile, I think, and I cannot believe that it will, or I don't believe that it will keep going the way it has been so far. I think the restrictions will become a lot harder for like brand safety reasons or monetization reasons. And I mean, we see that developing in every sphere of our lives, right? With CBDCs being right around the corner, at least I feel like they are, and other things that will just like lock us down a lot more in our like freedom to be ourselves in. And I think I think the internet will become less free, right? The internet, as at least the legacy internet as we know it. On the other hand, I see, as I said, a bright future for a decentralized web applications, let's say. But there's one big challenge that we need to face, and that is again tying into what I said before. Again, the challenge of user experience, right? So when we started out with Starbackr, for example, we were having a discussion about what Starbackr should be in the future and whether it should be a company with a clearnet side and everything, or if it should be like a onion hosted somewhere where God knows where, that would have the ability, or that would give us as founders and developers the ability to actually have like a really free platform for content, right? Basically the Silk Road of content. And we deliberately decided against that because it would limit the reach that we have with this platform to a very, very small amount of users. And we didn't do that because we were thinking purely about like monetization. We were doing it because we want to solve a problem for users that actually have the problem today, right? And people that are able to use Tor, for example, that are able to use Tor or know about like decentralization and maybe even are able to host their own web server, are not really having that problem of being locked down by some gatekeepers or like the centralized internet, the challenges that the centralized internet gives you, right? So we want to solve the problem for the people that actually have the problem, and that's why we decided to build a clearnet site that is accessible to anyone. And I think that's what we really have to think about when we think about decentralizing the internet. We don't only need to have these ideas in our head of, yeah, let's decentralize everything, let's make live streams decentralized, for example, because if you know about like network load, and if you actually know how much data a 4K live stream is, and then you think about, well, are people actually able to host or to do that on a Raspberry Pi at the home? And is that actually something that people would want to watch? Because obviously the quality would be very bad in the end because you just don't have the bandwidth to do something like that. I think it's very important that we think about user experience, that we think about what people actually want, and if we find a way to save the internet and decentralize it a little bit more without actually sacrificing all the user experience by doing it. And I think that's what we have been doing with Starbackr, at least some way, because Starbackr is not a decentralized platform. That's really important, right? We have plans and we have some decentralized parts that are currently implemented, but the whole content hosting is currently centralized on our servers. The reason we do that is exactly what I said just now, is it's incredibly hard to have a user experience that is capable of, or like that is competitive compared to other platforms in a decentralized way. And I say it's incredibly hard, but actually I believe it's pretty impossible right now to, let's say, have a platform that's competitive with YouTube and being decentralized, and being truly decentralized, because it's just very hard to build for like these big assets like high quality or even 4K video. So I think what's important for us to do is to find the issues that we can solve without sacrificing a lot of UX. That's where Lightning comes in, right? Lightning is the perfect rail to just throw out all of the legacy payment network that we had in the past and replace it with something even more performant that can be integrated in a way that's actually as simple to use as a credit card without the new user actually noticing it. And it will remove a lot of the problems that legacy platforms came with, like the whole deplatforming issues because of payment networks, right? So I think if we're able to build something like that, and if we're able to bring more people to platforms like that, and if people actually understand that and if we take the fear away as well a little bit, the fear of Bitcoin, because a lot of no coiners still are like a little bit worried when they come to a platform that's built on Bitcoin, at least that's what we experienced, then I think we really have a chance of building a creator economy that can strive again and that can be a lot more healthy in all the core fundamentals.
What have I not asked you that's on your mind lately? Now that you have the microphone, we have about like 15 minutes left. What do you want to share? Anything new or anything we haven't touched on that's valuable?
Oh yeah, actually, this might be a very good opportunity to tell some of the people that are currently listening about what we have in plan for the couple, like next days. I even believe. So what we have been focusing a lot on is the whole idea of value for value and how it has been implemented in the past and how it could unlock a lot more potential than it currently has. If you're not aware about value for value, let me just like give you a quick overview about how most people will interact with value for value right now. Basically, there's some like podcasting apps that will allow you to listen to a podcast and stream sats in return, right? So you would be able to set up a payment by the minute that would just send some amount of sats from your wallet to the podcaster's wallet. And it's actually like SPAC completely. So you can have it's working on Keysend currently, but I know that there's plans for like implementing other payment ways as well, like Allen URL. So you could have your podcast, you could set up your podcast, you could just put a list of Lightning Node public keys in that podcast description, and now the wallet that would listen to the podcast or like the podcasting app that would listen to the podcast knows exactly which amount of like which cut of the total payment to send to which node. So that's how value for value in podcasting apps currently works. And the idea behind this is to go from a pay gated way or like from the legacy monetization world into the new kind of monetization world. And I think it's a great idea, right? I mean, I think I made it clear that I'm not too happy with the way ad monetization has been twisting content creation or like the content creator economy because it just incentivizes a lot of bad behavior, like clickbaity content, for example, or tricking the algorithm. It just incentivizes creators to not build or create content for the users any longer, but rather for the algorithms, because that's the golden ticket of monetization. So I think migrating away from that ad monetization world is a very good idea. And now there's two alternatives, which one is like the monetization through users by having pay gates, which will lock down your content. And then there is the way of value for value, which is if the content is free and if you find value in the content, please give value back. That's the whole idea. But it's not only important for monetization. It can be used for so much more because so far all of the social and content platforms that we know rely on attention and like train algorithms to keep us there and use our attention to calculate the value that we see in a post, right? When I am on YouTube and I spend a lot of watch time, which is the metric YouTube uses for a lot of stuff, watching tutorials on CSS, on front-end design, YouTube will start suggesting content to me that is about CSS. And that is a logical approach, right? That makes sense. But now watch time is something that can be very easily faked by either like creating a lot of bots or hacking accounts and creating bot networks. So creators could actually pay a service to like spend a lot of time watching their videos to make the algorithm think that it is relevant content. And the second thing is I can easily grab your attention and make you watch my video by just having an extremely clickbaity title and telling you at the beginning of the video that I will announce whatever I told you I would announce at like at the end of the video or whatever, right? I would just give you some incentives to keep watching my video, although the content of the video might actually not be that valuable for you. But you don't know that yet, right? So you will watch the video. Now, with the value for value approach, and I hope you can, I hope everything I say is clear and you can follow along with it, because I know it's a little bit abstract even in my head currently. But with the value for value approach and the Lightning Network actually enabling us to give microtransactions or to give micro donations to a creator, we have a really, really strong signal for value in the content space, right? We could have very, very tiny donations that replace likes, like Stack and News does it, for example, already, right? And that's a very, very strong signal. Even it's like the strongest signal or the most cleanest signal for value if I actually have something that is associated with a cost. And that's what we try to build on Starbackr currently, right? We want to introduce a new feature which is called the Zap, and I think it will go live this week. I'm pretty sure it will go live this week. And the Zap is basically a 5-cent instant donation from your wallet to the creator's wallet. And we will not only use that Zap for creators to better monetize their content. I mean, obviously 5 cents is not that much, but if you have like 10,000 fans following your Starbucks profile, even 10% give you a zap on your post. That's still a lot of money you would earn. But monetization is, as I said, not the only thing that we can build with it. We can start developing algorithms and feeds that suggest content not on the amount of attention a post got, but on the amount of actually value a post collected with zaps or with donations or subscriptions or whatever. So we hope that we can build a monetization system that will not only cure the way we currently monetize content on the internet, but that it will also give us a very, very strong signal to actually suggest relevant content and real value to other users as well. That was a bit of a rant. I'm sorry.
No, that's good. I mean, if it's something new you guys are doing and something like we should definitely be trying, I think, as the early adopters and Bitcoiners. Nate, do you have any thoughts on that as well? I think this is pretty compelling for Lightning users.
No, I'm totally in agreement. There's not much
Yeah.
more I can add to that.
Well, we can open the stage up too. If anyone down below wants to like just hop up and ask questions, please feel free to raise your hands. We always do this at the end. Don't be shy. I think some of this technology is very cool, and I really believe that entrepreneurs who are early to adopt these things, like what is it, Logan Paul, like Mr. Beast, a lot of these people who made careers like leveraging social media, and now they're incredibly wealthy. I think some of the best entrepreneurs of the future are going to use tools like Starbackr, like Vita, like Zion. Who knows which one's going to be the one that makes it and takes off, kind of the way TikTok did. But I think this next generation of entrepreneurs are going to gravitate to Lightning, especially as the UX improves. Like you brought up, Nicholas, it needs to be improved quite a bit, but these tools are incredible. Like just what they extend to content creators is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, and something we haven't touched on is the it unlocks the whole thing that we have been used to as people living in the US or Europe or Asia, unlocks to a lot of people that live in countries that don't have that financial privilege, right? I mean, like this is something I learned going to El Salvador just now. I mean, I knew it was the problem there, but like getting to actually see it firsthand was a whole different topic, right? I arrived and the guy who drove me from the airport to the Airbnb, we were talking a little bit about the Bitcoin adoption and why it's so important for people living there. And he told me that his daughter, even though like she goes to university, right? They are not poor living on the countryside. They're like very, very smart people living in the capital of El Salvador, and his daughter going to university is not able to open a bank account. If you're not able to open a bank account, there's no way you will have a monetized YouTube channel. I mean, like obviously that's not the worst thing about not having a bank account. There are like a lot of things that are way worse about not having a bank account and not being able to open a YouTube account. If you think about that, all of the things that have been part of content monetization for us as like people, as I said, living in the US or Europe or wherever where like we have the financial privilege, it's completely normal that like some I don't know, 19-year-old can have his YouTube gaming channel and earn a couple of bucks, right? But someone doing the same thing in a country without people having access to banks would not be able to monetize. And that's something that Lightning also unlocks. That's very, very important. It actually gives unbanked people a solution to like monetizing content on the internet because they had none before. It's not like physical content where you can just have a painting and go to the street and sell it for cash, right? Because people were doing that in El Salvador as well. I know that my team, one of the first posts actually on the initial MVP of Starbacker was some street artists like making photographies like with a smartphone of the pictures he were painting and selling to Bitcoiners that came for adopting Bitcoin. That were one of those were one of the first posts on Starbucker, but something he did selling that art for cash on the street is something you will never be able to do with digital content. So digital content creators always relied on having like a digital payment system. And with the legacy world, if you don't have a bank account, you will not be able to monetize. And that's something that Bitcoin really fixes. And it fixes it already.
Well, awesome. Well, Nicholas, we appreciate you joining us. Again, if anyone wants to hop up, ask a question, feel free. But if not, we can put a pin in it there. That was a great wrap up. So thank you again for joining us. And I see Starbackers here in the audience. So anyone who wants to follow Starbacker, click the link right here, hit follow. But Nicholas, where can people find you and the company anywhere else online that's best to stay engaged?
I mean, like, following us on Twitter is actually a pretty good way of keeping up to date with what's happening because that's definitely the most active social media account. If you look for us on social media, we're like on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. It's always at real Starbacker because for some reason Starbacker is pretty much taken everywhere. So it's always at real Starbacker. And obviously there's our website, which is starbacker.com. And the web app, what Starbacker really is about is app.starbacker.com. So if you want to check it out, feel free. And if you have some questions, you can always DM the Starbacker account on Twitter or just DM me as well. I'm actually reading all of my DMs as well. So if you have any feedback, we really appreciate it, and we really want to learn from. As I said at the beginning, we really want to learn from people that actually uses platforms like Starbacker. So feedback is highly appreciated.
Appreciate
Wonderful.
it, guys.
Sorry, I was on mute. Well, Nicholas, we appreciate you joining us and spending time today. So we'll see everyone next time. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Later.